Tabletop role-playing games are a form of role-playing game, RPG, in which the participants describe their character's actions through speech. Players determine the actions of their characters based on their characterization, and the actions succeed or fail according to a formal system of rules and guidelines. Within the rules, players have the freedom to improvise. Their choices shape the direction and outcome of the game. Tabletop role-playing games, or TTRPGs, to many are the most intimidating and daunting genre of game to break into. They're viewed as requiring massive time commitments by all involved in terms of preparation and play, creating a barrier that prevents them from seeming accessible to the average person. I'm Kisher Price, and this is the reason I'm here. My goal in this series is to break down the TTRPG genre into bite-sized chunks and give an introductory course on how to get into playing them. Just a bit of preliminary information. This series will not serve to be an in-depth guide to any one system in particular, but more of a guide into breaking into the genre as a whole. I plan on covering the basics of the genre and what goes into having a successful and, more importantly, fun session. If you're a newer player who has never TTRPG'd before, or a veteran who's just looking for another player's views on how to help get your friends into playing, I hope this series gives you the info you need to accomplish your RPG-related goals. First, there's the titan of TTRPGs, Dungeons & Dragons. Made by Wizards of the Coast, it was the first published TTRPG. Originally released in 1974, D&D has gone through many different iterations. It takes place in your standard high fantasy setting. Orcs, elves, dwarves, goblins, dragons, and all other forms of magical creature make their home in D&D. The most recent release, as of this recording, is 5th edition, or 5e. With the years put into it, D&D has become a much more streamlined experience than the game many remember from years ago. The core rules go into great depth, providing many examples for each mechanic, making it easy to pick up. It is heavily stat-based, so you can expect a lot of rolling of dice. It's not a huge amount like some systems, but it's certainly a core feature. The game can be customized to focus more on social interaction or combat, depending on the desires of your group. Essentially, the biggest draw to the system is polish. It is certainly one of the most well-done and complete systems out there. My biggest con with the series would be that a bit of the more advanced or intricate parts of the system can be a bit hard to wrap your head around, especially with the older editions, such as multi-classing or dual-classing. Another minor gripe would be the need for miniatures, or an online equivalent unless you do a bit of homebrewing, but overall, you can't go wrong with the classic. Honorable mention goes to Pathfinder, which is essentially an extended version of 3.5e and plays very similarly, but cuts a few of the complicated bits from 3.5e. My second choice goes to the Fate system by Evil Hat Productions. It was originally published in 2003, with the most recent version, Fate Core, coming out in 2013. Fate is a system that aims for the highest amount of role-playing by the player with minimal stat checks. There are no classes, baked attributes, or even a base setting. The entire system was created to be adjusted to whatever type of experience your group wants to play. Sci-fi, fantasy, steampunk, horror, Fate has it all covered. Homebrewing is actively encouraged by the devs, and tips for it are in the rulebook. In lieu of your traditional stats and classes, each character is, for all intents and purposes, mediocre at everything except for what you choose to be good at. Your character's background and quirks are the most defining trait of how the game will play, in the form of aspects and troubles. These are what make your character important. An example from the Fate Core rulebook is Tempted by Shiny Things. This aspect creates scenarios which drive you to act in a certain way and gives the GM inspiration for problems to throw at you, which in turn, you get rewarded for accepting. However, this aspect isn't entirely negative. You could say, for example, that because you're so drawn to things like gold and gems and money, that you have some sort of eye for their value, which will help you in bartering. Or maybe you have some knowledge for breaking out of prison, since you end up there very often because of your greed. All aspects of your character are made in collaboration with the other players, leading to some interesting backstories to explore and expand upon. The whole system is available legally for free as well, which is a huge plus in my book. The cons of the system, to me, is that it can be a bit difficult to get truly long campaigns going due to how aspects and skills are generated. You have a fairly limited amount, and they can be difficult to change later. Another would be that because the system is so open-ended and adaptable, it can lack a little bit of depth and complexity that systems geared for a particular genre or type of storytelling may have. However, if you enjoy all types of genres, but don't want to learn a new system for each one, Fate is perfect for your group. Honorable mention goes to Monster of the Week, also by Evil Hat Productions. Its character creation, while a bit more limited, is similar to Fate and very quick and easy to pick up with no significant preparation beforehand. My final recommendation goes to Fiasco by Bully Pulpit Games. Created in 2009, Fiasco is dedicated to movies like Fargo or Burn After Reading, a small-time situation which just goes wrong in every possible way. Fiasco is a GM-less game where character and story creation are done entirely in the game on the fly. All you need to do beforehand is choose a playset, which is essentially the basic setting in which your fiasco will take place. Bully Pulpit provides a few written by their team, but there are many more that they promote on their website written by players. Once you choose your playset, all you need is a set of 4 6-sided die of 2 different colors for each player, for example, 2 white and 2 black. Everyone rolls their die, and using the outcomes on them, decides things like goals, relationships with the other players, or where the fiasco takes place. After that, it's all up to you. The first act sets up the scene. The second act makes it all go horribly wrong. No matter what you do, you're probably going to end up with a bad ending, but it'll be very entertaining. Immersion is probably Fiasco's greatest strength. After the initial rolls at the start of the game, there's no more rolling to be done. You're pretty much good to go. The flaw with Fiasco is that its type of storytelling can be a bit restrictive. There will probably never be an epic grand-scale battle with crazy critical rolls, simply because the game was not designed for a lot of combat. So if you're looking for a more typical dungeon-crawling type TTRPG, Fiasco's not what you're looking for. If you want a good night of pure role-playing goodness, a game with no GM, or just something to break the ice in a group that's new to role-playing, Fiasco's for you. It's an excellent for everyone RPG. One last note that I'm sure some of you have in mind: what about a beginner-friendly sci-fi RPG? Well, I've got bad news. In my experience, I haven't found a hard sci-fi TTRPG that I would say is truly good for a new player. Rifts isn't a bad choice, but I would call that more sci-fantasy. Eclipse Phase is also great, but character generation is ridiculously complex. Essentially, I just find that hard sci-fi doesn't have that right level of simplicity. I would love to hear your opinions though. Feel free to let me know of any systems you think fit this category so I can give them a try for myself. There are, of course, many more fantastic options to choose from that I'm sure I didn't mention or I've never even played before. It would take far too long to go over every one of them. If you think a system looks cool and want to give it a try, I say dive right in and go for it. In the next episode, I'll cover making a character, which is my favorite part. As always, feel free to ask any questions or leave any feedback in the comments below. Thanks for watching.